this is Martin Gresco. Thank you for stopping by thenakedkeyboardist.com. Today, I want to talk about the 2-5-1 progression. Now, the 2-5-1 progression, it's a very common chord progression in nearly all genres of music, especially jazz. And it's a cadential chord progression, which means that it creates a sense of resolution or finality. Cadences give phrases a distinctive ending that tells the listener whether the piece is to be continued or concluded. If we make an analogy to punctuation, cadences function like commas if they're a weaker cadence, or periods if they're a stronger cadence. The strength of a cadence depends on the sense of finality that it creates. Now, the 2-5-1 gets its name because it uses the chords built on the second, fifth, and root tones of the scale. Let's take a look at the C scale. We have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, the C major scale. And if we put those to numbers, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to 1 again. If we build a triad, and a tri meaning 3, a triad is just a 3-note chord. If we build a triad on each tone of the scale and we number it, we get the 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, 7 chord, and finally back to 1. The 2-5-1 is simply the chord built on the second degree of the scale, in this case D minor, the 5 chord, in this case G major, and then the 1 chord. Now in jazz, the 2-5-1 progression basically serves 2 roles. First, you're implying passing tonalities. In other words, it's like a cycle of fifths, it may be called, key changes, so that you go through various keys when you're playing a jazz piece. And then secondly, it leads to the goal. And what's the goal? Well, the goal of every cadence or every piece is to get back to that 1 chord, the tonic chord. That's the home key. It's important to note in jazz that the chords we'll be using aren't triads, because chords of less than 4 notes are usually insufficient. In jazz, we're going to use 7th chords, 9th, 11th, and 13th. And in this particular video tutorial, we'll only be using 7th chords. Don't get overwhelmed with this. We'll explore all of those chord structures in the future. And for now, we're just going to use the 7th chords anyway. So, we take the triads, and we're going to add the 7th tone to each of the triads. And now we'll have the 1 chord, which is a major 7th. The 2 chord is a minor 7th. 3 chord is a minor 7th. 4 chord is major 7th. The 5 chord is a dominant 7th. Then the 6th chord is another minor 7th, and then the 7th chord is a half diminished 7th. And we won't worry about those terms at this point. But using the information that you now have, you can go through all 12 keys and build 7th chords to every tone of the scale. So the way that a 2-5-1 progression would sound would be something like this. Or if we did it in another key. Alright, so go through all 12 keys, work on playing the 2-5-1 progression, because I'm telling you, it will revolutionize your playing if you get very familiar with this progression in all the keys, and especially if you play jazz or you want to play jazz. This is where I started 30 years ago when I started playing jazz. In fact, my first few jazz lessons, we covered nothing but the 2-5-1 progression. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a blessed day.